Hello Stardust, and welcome back to Radical Raspberry for another radical video about divine femininity. We're going to talk about what it is and how to heal it and what issues we might have around it. I'm going to give you some questions to prompt you to inquire what it means to you, because it is different on an individual basis. It doesn't matter if you're a man, a woman, anything in between or beyond. It doesn't have anything to do with social construct. It's an energy that is in everybody, that is within the universe. But this is something that everybody has and is important for everybody to heal. I will be specifically talking to my women in certain sections of this video because that's where I come from, that's my experience, and I'm going to talk about a bit of sacred femininity within dating as well, because that's something that I am interested in and I find very fascinating, and I want to share an experience with you that I had that really changed my experience with a man and having that dancing of energies that I really believe is something that has been blocked in me, and is something I've only been realizing these last couple of weeks, just how shameful I have felt towards my femininity and not being able to completely embrace it. And it's not my fault, it's not your fault that we reject it. It's this world worships that masculine energy, and because of that everything is so out of balance. So it's your time now. You can join this evolution, this revolution of the feminine rising, because this is what's going to happen. We need to have balance. The world is way too rooted in masculine ideals, and it is making us feel shameful to tap into our femininity, men and women and everybody included within that. So I want to talk about that today. This video is going to be different than my other ones. I'm going to just be like completely flowing from my head, from my heart, from my here and now. Normally I do script my videos and I plan out what I want to say and I section it off, but I want to just really flow into that creative energy that is the femininity, and I want to just see what comes out of it. This is how I used to make videos. I used to just sit here and talk, but then all these pressures and ideals and these expectations of what it's supposed to be means to be a YouTuber came into my head, and I was like, I can't just stand here and talk. Like, who's going to want to listen to that? But this message is something that is just, I want it to come from that pure place of creation, because that is what it's all about. And so these last couple of weeks, honestly, it's changed the way that I look at the world, that I look at myself, that I look at relationships, that it's just like amazing. Like I knew about this, but I never fully did research about it, and so that's why I want to share it with you, so that we can work on healing that sacred divine femininity. Yes. So starting off, we want to know, what is divine femininity or sacred femininity? Well, it's an energy, as I said earlier. It's something beyond us. It has nothing to do with your gender, nothing to do with your genitalia, nothing to do with social constructs of what it means to be a woman or what it means to be a man. But when you understand what the energy is, you are going to understand how that taps into everything, how women have been oppressed, how there has been shame behind expressing those feminine attributes. And the thing is, and what I love about yin and yang, and what really changed my life about it is there's no feminine without masculine. So when you mute that femininity, the masculinity too is muted. Everything is muted. Everything is out of flux. It's out of flow. You're not able, because you need both energies. You need them both. You can't separate them. They are together. They are one. And so, like that yin and yang symbol, and you can't differentiate them. So one big thing, yin and yang, I'll throw a couple examples here. This isn't a yin and yang video, but I find that it helps when we talk about feminine and masculine energy. One of the examples is you have a car, and the gas, that's yang, that's masculine energy, but the brake, that's yin, that's feminine energy. And you can't drive without the brake pedal or the gas. You need both of them in order to drive. You can't separate one from the other, but that's what we've been doing for centuries. We've been saying, I like this is what serves a capitalist society, this is what's going to get people to work hard, to go, 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 and this other energy, we don't want that. We are going to get those women, actually the best way to control that energy is we're going to get women to control themselves. And then we are going to teach everyone through the media, through values, through our entire institutions, that being is wrong. that it's not going to serve you, it's not going to help you. You have to work hard. You can't work soft. I hope that example helped clarify that you cannot separate the one from the other. Be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bells if you're interested in yin and yang, because it is a topic that I would like to get into more. Comment down below and thumbs this video up if you would like that, and if you're interested in yin and yang, because it's a topic that completely changed the way that I look at the world and allowed me to tap into a more holistic worldview of everything. In my experience, I like to understand things by comparing them and contrasting them to something else opposing to it. And I think because we all are very familiar with the masculine energy is active. Masculine energy is doing. And that's why I say we have praised masculine energy for very long in a capitalist society that really wants people to work, to do. We've seen that. Hustle harder, do more, do. Something else that hit me is when we talk to people, we say, how are you doing? As if what you are doing is what measures how you feel and measures your worth. We don't ask people how they're feeling. When you ask someone how you're feeling, you're tapping into the femininity. You're tapping into their emotional body, something that is beyond that going. Whereas masculinity is doing, femininity is being. Oh, beautiful. I love it, because so often, even when I'm recording videos, I'm thinking about doing it. I'm thinking about already editing it before I've even begun being the video, and just that's what it is. You just have to do nothing for a day. And these are things that I've all done, but I haven't consciously, intentionally tapped into that being energy of just sitting there and being. And you see, when you work and you do and you do and you do, you get burnt out very easily if you don't put some being in there, if you don't put that femininity into it. So that's a very basic definition of the difference between the two of them. Femininity is sensuality, being sensual. That's a very big thing, because masculinity is sexuality, is sex. And that's another power force that drives our society. And what happens is women have been shamed for their sensuality for centuries. And you see that sensuality as something negative, as something bad, as you're a temptress. When in reality, there's great power in that soft, delicate sensuality of just feeling attractive and feeling flowy. I'm really, something recently I've been tapping into a lot more is my own sensuality, in just the touch, in the delicate touch of things. So what comes with sensuality, often you've seen, I've heard said the word multiple times, delicacy, softness. And so often I've noticed, even just when I get out of the shower and I put cream on, I'm like quickly doing it. Like I'm not trying to slow down and to just be more soft and delicate with myself. And when I do that, I notice that I tap a lot more into my sensuality. And so when you tap into your femininity, me just talking about it and thinking about it, my voice changes. It changes to be softer. It changes to have that femininity, that zest, that something's going on. Versus if I'm talking more masculine, I'm talking a lot more rough, and I'm talking a lot, not just soft, it's a lot of jab. Versus when you soften it, you have more of a flow to your voice, which is really nice, which I think is a good guide way to when we sing, because when we're singing, we tap into our creativity. You guessed it, femininity, one of the big things is creation. Come on, that's got to be the easiest giveaway. We are the woman, after all. Although I promise you it doesn't matter whether you're woman or man, because you know that we all create. We are all creators here. That's one of the most beautiful things of being a human being. If I could try to sum up what that sacred divine femininity is in a sentence, it would be an energy that reflects feminine attributes such as being, creation, sensuality, softness, introspection, emotions. Another thing that when I first read it, I really saw it as a negative, and I didn't want it, I completely rejected it, is passivity. And I rejected it because the term passivity, it just sounds like very subservient, very submissive, which is what the woman has often been painted as in a negative light. We see passivity as a bad thing. But a lot of times, and especially with everything going on in the world right now, we need to choose where we want to put our energy, where we want to activate that energy, and when we need to reserve it, when we need to be more passive and just observe things and not take it personally, not react to it, just observe it and just let it happen. So when I read this new definition of passivity, I thought this was incredible. Passivity is defined as accepting or allowing what happens or what others do without reacting or resistance. Sometimes you need that. You need that. You can't be expending your energy on every little thing that irritates you or that conflicts with your inner world. You can't constantly be giving that energy to people. You need to be more passive. And when you step into that, and especially I'm going to translate into the dating world, when you sit there in that passivity and you let that person prove to you whether what they say, what they do is good, and you don't resist what they're saying, you don't accept it either, you sit there, you're more of the observer, and you just kind of, you look at what they're saying, and you just kind of just see, you know, I'm not going to resist it, I'm not going to accept it either, maybe I'll contemplate on it later, but for now I'm just going to see what they say, see what I feel, I'm not going to burst out and be like, I completely disagree with you. And that is something that I've done so many times with men. I've always like wanted to debate with them for many reasons. And like sometimes I like it, but it's all the time, just like constantly debating with them. And I always feel like I had to meet them like on that level, that I had to kind of be like them in a certain way to get them to like me. And I didn't realize like how wrong that is. Now this is going to be like more of a controversial statement. When I was reading articles about it, it was definitely full of controversy. But in the dating world specifically, there is a polarity of masculine and feminine, and it can be the man that's feminine and the woman that's masculine. It can be two women and one is feminine or one is masculine, or they can both be like switching that role of femininity and masculinity. But those energies dancing together, that's what creates that sexual attraction with somebody. Because the woman, not the woman, pardon me, the feminine energy is what receives, and the masculine energy is what gives. And so constantly, women, we often find ourselves in this role where we want to give, and we want to give, and you don't always have to give, women. You don't. You can sit back and just let the man lead and just receive what they give you and say thank you. Because that man, typically, if they are very masculine, they're going to want to lead. They're going to want to step up and guide you, and all you have to do is follow. All you have to do is receive what they are willing to give you. That is definitely sexual, but that's how you remember it. So oftentimes, when I am dating people, I would always want to be in control. Like I'd always be like, okay, let's go here. Let's do this. I would be like, very much caring too much and trying to give and trying to be like, let's do this, let's do that. I'd be trying to like argue with them, just I wasn't being, right? I wasn't just, okay, I'll just relax and I will just receive whatever you plan for me. It's great. And instead I would just be like, control. I want to decide where we're going. I want to tell you where we're going. I want to initiate all of this. And that's not bad all the time, but so much of it, that's like all I was doing. And when I reflected on this, I wasn't surprised when men weren't as interested in me, because I wasn't willing to make them feel like they could be in control and they could be in the lead. And men typically, these are very now going into sexist territory, but we're talking with the energetic field, and a lot of us, we have a dominant core energy, whether it's feminine or masculine. Typically we have that dominant core, and when you tap into that, a lot of times we are rejecting it, just as most people with a feminine core, they tend to reject that because we've been taught to be shamed by it. But typically if you meet a very masculine man and you are trying to meet him with masculine energy, there's not going to be that attraction. There's going to be a lot of friction. There's going to be that debate. And I read something, and it's like a man doesn't want to hang out with a woman who is like a man. Like he can just get that from his guy friends. What women have and what their power is that feminine energy that you cannot get within a man. So why are we trying to adapt to these masculine ideals when what we have, people who have that core femininity, when that is something that is needed and that is rare, and that's when you tap into that, then the man is going to want to see you a lot more, because his guy friends can't offer that, you know? I've been like listening to podcasts and things, and I reflected on how oftentimes I've been like the chaser. Like I've been the one asking all the questions, and I've been the one initiating things, and how exhausting that would be when I would come away and that guy didn't show much interest in me. And so when I thought about that, I said to myself, I'm not going to chase a man anymore. I'm going to let them chase me. I'm going to just be. Like, I'm okay here. I don't need to chase any man. I'm going to let him come to me, and I will then just sit there and relax and let him prove his worthiness and whether I want to spend my energy into him. And so once I said this out loud to the universe, I proclaimed it loud and proud. A couple days after, I had a man come up to me and ask for my number. And that hasn't happened probably in a year. And I was just like, universe, you listening to me. It was literally like a day or two after I said, I'm not chasing a man, he can come to me. I have men coming to me. I was like trying to, manifest that shit. And I did. This man came to me, and I was like, oh, okay, universe, you hear me. But that was just the beginning, right? Because typically I would be like, okay, let's go here. Let's do this. Let me ask all these questions about you. But this time I said, no, I'm going to tap into that divine feminine energy, and I'm just going to be. I am just like passive, and you can just prove to me. You can make the plans. I don't really care. I don't care. You can do what you think is good. Like, and it felt so good to like go on a date and not have the pressure of like trying to ask them all these questions and trying to get this and trying to like figure out what's going on. Like, instead I could just actually just relax and like enjoy it. And that's the thing, relaxation is feminine energy. And so I just relaxed, and I just flowed, and I just let him lead, and I followed. And what questions he asked, I followed there. And where we went, I followed there. Now, of course, you got to trust your intuition as well. Like, if this man is not asking you any questions, or he's asking the wrong questions, and you need to know something about him, like, feel free to ask questions. Don't completely roll over. But I've noticed how relaxed I became when I was just like, I'm going to let him guide it. And I had such a wonderful time, because I wasn't worrying about trying to do something and trying to ask questions and trying to take control. And I think what's very challenging for a lot of women is that we don't trust our men. And it's hard to when we're constantly being drilled. The patriarchy is evil. White men, specifically, you all suck. So as women, when you're used to this, and when you constantly have people proving this to you, you don't trust them. And when you don't trust the man, you're not going to let him lead, and you're not going to let him prove to you that he can be trustworthy and that he's actually great and he can be worthy. So something that I'm working on still is healing that way that I view men, because it's hard when you're very tapped into the evil patriarchy, and you can't be naive. You can't know, like, you can't be naive. You can't be like, men are great and good and all of them are wholesome, because we're humans. You can't make a broad generalization like that. But you need to work on trusting the men to lead. Because one thing that I always think about is like, I don't always think about it, but during the war specifically, like, men led. And yes, we can argue, that women weren't allowed to lead, but men happily took that stance, and they chose in the society, it was to protect women and children, and that is what they did. And I think about just how grateful my ancestors must have been to the men for protecting them. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be protected, with wanting to be gentle, with wanting to be supported. And that's the thing, is that we see like that's weakness and that's not good, right? And so then we don't want to step into that position. But sometimes it feels really good. You don't have to force anything, because I realized like me asking a guy 100 questions was forcing it. Just like the law of attraction, when you focus on something, you start to see it more. So when we focus on the goodness of men, we're going to see more of the goodness of men. Something controversial as well, we can't focus on the evil of the patriarchy all the time, because what's going to happen is that's what we're going to see more of. That's what we're going to create in our own realities. We're going to create more evil within men. And if you're able to look at a man and say, okay, I can trust you, I will follow you, and you tap into that feminine quality of receiving, of following, of relaxing, oh, it's so invigorating, because you don't have to try all the time. And that's a big thing too for manifestation, is we're always trying to manifest something and like doing it. There comes a point where you send it out there and then you just wait gracefully to receive it, because it's here. But if you're not open to receive, you're not going to receive it. So you need to tell yourself, okay, I'm ready to receive. And when you're in that divine femininity, you're relaxed, and there's no pressure that you're not going to have it, because everything's taken care of in creation. Everything will come, and you just have to receive it. You have to be open to receiving that love and open to receiving whatever you are wishing for. But so often we are in the opposite masculine energy of giving and giving and giving and giving, and it's very draining, and it's not healthy for us. And then another thing too is like when I focused on my divine femininity, when I focused on my sensuality, I felt more like sexual attraction within that relationship, and I hadn't really had that in a while, because I was so tapped into my masculinity that you can't have these two very hyper masculine energies and have sexual attraction. So that's what the controversy is with sexual polarity, whether you can have two masculine energies and have like sexual attraction. Like, yes, you can have sex, you can have friendship, you can have that, but the actual attraction part and like that flirtatious energy, you need the sensuality and the sexuality. Because if you just have two masculine energies, they both represent sexuality, and then you will just have sex. But if you have sensuality and sensuality, then you're not going to have any sex. It's just going to be straight, just sensualness. You're just going to be like very soft and like, ooh, look. But if you have sensuality and sexuality, it's that perfect mixture of all of that good stuff, and then you're like feeling it, and it's just it's magical. So yeah, so I'm still tapping into my feelings of shame, specifically towards my emotions. That's probably the part in myself that I need to heal the most, to know that like it's okay to be emotional, because that's the thing, is like you're that emotional like crazy woman, you know. And I know crazy is like, but I mean it in this context. That's how people label women who are emotional, and so there's that shame towards it. And so I'm trying to heal and tell myself, like, I'm willing to live with all of who I am. It is okay to feel all of that I'm feeling. Emotions are good. I need to feel them to heal them. And just, your emotions, there's so much wisdom in them. And I'm learning that all right now. And it just feels so good. It feels so good to tap into this part of myself, because it's a part that I feel like I've neglected for too long. Like, yes, I've relaxed and I've created and things, but I haven't like consciously, intentionally been like, okay, I'm going to tap into that divine feminine and just soften more, open my heart space. And there's great power in just receiving and not having to do all the time. It takes off so much stress and pressure. So reflection is really important in anything, and we have all been taught what femininity means. We've been taught it through, you know, directly or indirectly through our mother figure, through our society. So in the description below, I'm going to write down some questions that you can feel free to answer or just read and reflect on. These are things that I've journaled myself and I've thought about it, and I think it was very important for me to see, like, where does that shame come from? And then once you can acknowledge, like, hey, maybe, you know, those Disney movies when I was younger taught me something that's really bad. Then when you acknowledge that, then you can bring it out to the light and you can heal it, and you can say, okay, but that's not my truth. That's not what sacred femininity is to me. And then you define it for yourself and you tap into it. One last important note is that you can't always have that sacred femininity and you can't always have sacred masculinity. You need to have both. For so long, we have been worshiping masculinity, and the femininity has wavered too much. And look what it has done to our world. It's led to too much destruction, too much war, too much chaos. And it's very important, and I believe that this is the time, this is the feminine rising to heal and to bring it to the surface so that we can find balance again. And that balance between those two energies is very important. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you learned something about sacred femininity and my own experience from it. If you disagree with me in certain points, definitely let me know down below, or just be like, okay, I'll passively listen to you. And then that way your defense mechanism isn't, raising very quickly. I enjoyed making this video. If you do want to know more about yin and yang, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up and comment down below, what is sacred femininity to you? I would love to know. I will see you next Friday. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, think beyond and Om.